Now I request our Honorable Speaker Sri Madhukar Rangan.
I would like to thank Mr. Runta for inviting me and giving me more than my share of time today. In fact, in the afternoon, I think he has given me 3 hours. I don't think, otherwise I'll have to miss my flight. And tomorrow I have got a sitting for writing the GST book. I have started a book on GST which I want to complete maybe in the next 15 days. So thank you for calling me, and thank you for the nice words by Mr. Datta. And of course, Sumantra and me were in the exam committee in 2010, and there were a lot of reforms at that time. It's very important that we ensure that the level of this chartered accountant coming out of the course is at a high level. I think everybody here will not complain, but the students may complain. But when we were there, I think it was the results which were being generously being declared earlier. We were very strong and we gave the real results. 2010, I think May, Amarjit Chopra ji was the president. Even his daughter did not pass because we were very strict. We didn't allow many things to happen. So, of course, we go back a long way. I would be taking you through GST. As Sumantra said, there are some aspects of GST which we need to be clear, and most of the GST training will happen after the draft law comes. Today we are all speaking on what we expect. Whatever I am speaking on is maybe with a little experience of the other indirect taxes which we know. I started actually in 1988 in Central Excise. Then we took up areas of custom. Then in 2000 I started in service tax, and in 2005 I started in VAT, which came at the first time at that time. So we have an idea of other laws, and today I will try and explain to you which aspects of each of those laws is also useful for GST, because that is actually information for you. And if you can focus on those areas, probably your understanding of GST whenever it comes, however it comes, will be very clear. First, broadly, was GST necessary? Why is it necessary for India? Throughout the world, people have ensured that their countries function effectively. Unfortunately, in India, we have had a history of not bothering too much about the country by various political parties. Now we have seen a big change. At least in words we have seen, and some action also. I will tell you one major change which I think I have observed. Many of you are dealing in taxes, and at the adjudication level, you have the department officer, whether it's income tax or VAT or service tax or central excise. We have adjudicating officers in the starting, and invariably they used to pass orders against the SSE. Last 4 or 5 months, I have seen that this trend seems to be getting reversed. There is no law. Law has not got changed. They still have the same powers, but I see an actual difference in the way in which they are administered. Out of say 10 cases, at least 1 or 2 cases are in favor of the SSE at the adjudication level, which means that somewhere some message is being given that SSE should be given their due. Frivolous, demand should not be taken up. Some message like this is very much there in the administration today, which is a very, very big move in my view, because we have not seen it in the last 10-15 years. Which means possibly equitability, legality and all is going to have some more force in the time to come. Otherwise only the brokers will do well. And for being a broker, you don't have to be a chartered accountant. In fact, if you are not a chartered accountant, it's easier to be a broker. So now knowledge will become very important is what I think. And I think that as we go along, today's deliberation, it will convince you that maybe this is an area either you can take up yourself or some partner you have to take, younger partner in your firm who will take up this area. Because one thing is very sure, the amount of tax which is represented by GST is unprecedented. For example, if GST was in place for the year 1560, example, say it was already there, the total tax collected in GST would have been, in my estimate, around 14 lakh crores. And if I were to look at the setups which are available, that is the credits which are available, that would be at least 3 times. That means that would be around 42 lakh crores. The total amount I am talking about now is 56 lakh crores. And you know how much total individual income tax in India is? 2 lakh crores. How much is service tax, which is causing so much of problem? 2.4 lakh crores. How much is excise? 2 lakh crores. How much is customs? 2 lakh crores. Are you getting a perspective of what is the impact of GST? And all the people who are there, like today Mr. Arun Agarwal is there, I am there, all of us will be as good as you. There will be hardly any difference between you and me under GST, because new law will be in place. Of course, we will have little edge. People who are already there for 1 or 2 years will certainly find GST very useful. Not after it comes. Don't start learning GST after it comes. There is no use then. Everything is finished. All the A and B category clients have already got their consultants. So if we want to have clients who will come to us, we have to be ready much before the law comes. And it is a good thing that EIRC has thought of having this in the first session. So now I will tell you what are the advantages for India. The first advantage is that I expect GDP growth to go up by 2%. The figure of 1% here is the government declared figure. I expect GDP itself to go up by 2% once GST comes. GST is not going to come in an ideal way. We know that. Already there are a lot of compromises. Even then it will go up by 2%. Because exports will boom, which is the next point. This figure again is from the government. I think exports will increase by 10%. Not 5%. Minimum 10, maybe 20. We don't know. Because GST is going to bring in some more taxes which are going to be refundable to the exporters. Whether it is a service exporter or a material goods exporter. You know the new FTP law also has come. And the new FTP law allows for even services to get benefits under the foreign trade policy. Earlier you had a scheme for, say, a chartered accountant who is providing services abroad, sitting in Calcutta. He would be eligible for a served from India scheme, but it was not transferable. If it is not transferable, what are you going to do? What are you going to import from outside and use it? So it was just a paper. Whereas in the new FTP, which has been announced just this month, you will find that you are eligible for 3% of the gross and you can transfer it. That means whatever you export, say you do 1 crore of exports, you are going to get 3 lakhs of scripts which you can sell in the market for maybe 2.8 or 2.75 lakhs, and that will be an additional benefit. First time we are having a real benefit. So I think international competitiveness is going to go up and all of us are going to have a lot of international work. We have already seen a lot of investments coming in to India in the last few months, or last year also I could see, because of various reasons. Maybe the move towards making things simple, though it's not really becomes very simple. One of the major advantages of GST is there will be a common market. Today we are all fractured. I think the very famous poet from your own state, he had said that we are divided by narrow domestic walls. He had said we are getting divided and divided. Maybe GST will be one move towards unifying, because we are removing all the checkposts, difference between two states, tax wars between two states, rate wars, entry tax. Lot of difficulty for the trade is going to disappear in the GST. One more point is that if you look at how the trade has been going on, all of us know there is a parallel economy. There is a parallel economy where everything happens in cash. But this economy may not be allowed to flourish. It will have a lot of constraints under GST. I am not saying it will not exist, it will exist. But people who want to grow who want to reach 100 crores turnover, who want to reach 50 crores turnover, they will have to embrace GST to grow. So I think that is going to be a very important aspect, because today people don't pay tax because the neighbor doesn't pay tax, because the other person in my own business doesn't pay tax, because the buyer of my commodity compares me with the person who is not paying taxes. There is where this issue comes up, and I think all those who want to be part of this growth, which is sure to be happening in India, will have to join the mainstream. The cost of corruption in India has been estimated to be around 2.5% of the GDP, which is a large amount. That means if I can put an estimate, it must be somewhere in the region of around 7 to 9 lakh crores. The total bribes in the tax department could be between 7 to 9 lakh crores. It includes the VAT department, it includes the central excise, customs and service tax. In the central taxes, in my opinion, it's not so much. This is only my opinion. I think the VAT, at least in Karnataka, where I come from, I try to do an analysis and find out if there are any honest officers in the department. I sent a mail to around 500 chartered accountants, and the replies I got were, if you know anybody, tell us. That means nobody, not even one honest officer in the department. When I say that not even one honest, it doesn't mean that everybody is after money, but they accept. If you give it, they'll take. And then of course there are people who will demand also. So this is a very huge cost for India. And I think under GST this will reduce again. In the VAT regime it reduced slightly, but in GST it will reduce dramatically. But it will still be there. That's what I think. But it will certainly reduce the transaction cost of doing business, the number of authorities, the number of reconciliations you have to make, the chances of different officers having different views gets reduced in this regime, because many taxes are getting subsumed, put together. One more thing is that once person is under indirect taxes, whether it is GST or service tax, automatically the income tax increases, because now he is declaring his income. Earlier he was not declaring. So income tax also will increase for India. So these are the advantages and why it is necessary for India to have GST. We should have had it in 1980. Unfortunately, we didn't have the habit going through, and even today, yesterday what happened, Sumantra Guha was talking about what happened yesterday. I think that hopefully they will get past all this and get into GST. Let's look at the Indian economy and where we are heading. I think very importantly, as of now itself, we are the third largest economy in the world as far as purchasing power is concerned. That's because of our numbers also. We are only behind China and USA and China. And this USA and China also will get turned in the next 10 years. It will become China, USA, India, and I think another 5-7 years it will become China, India, then USA. This is what is expected. And you are already aware that India is growing at a faster rate than China now, which means we are all going to have the fruits of India doing well. One more advantage is the youth. Across the world, people don't have children. They have not had children for the last 20-30 years. People prefer to live by themselves. They don't want to have any headaches. This trend also has started in India, but at least for the next 30-40 years, I don't think it's a problem. What is the problem? Why we have not done well in the past? One of the main reasons is this ease of doing business in India is very, very challenging. Small scale industries have to go through some dozen plus compliances. For everything there is a requirement for taking approval. Electricity approval, this approval, that approval. These approvals are already slowly getting mitigated. I am not saying they are going, but they are certainly getting mitigated as I have seen in this regime. Hopefully they will continue to do what they do and will become much more easy to do business. I think focus of government also is on this. If you have seen recently some reversals were done, which is to enable businesses to do well. One of the other important aspects which is challenging us is competitiveness. Are we building competitiveness? Competitiveness, how do you build? Competitiveness here, for you, me, government also. Are they getting trained? Even under GST, one of the most important aspects will be the training of the officers. It is not the passing of the bill in the parliament, it is not the IT infrastructure, it is going to be training of the officers in the new law. Training of the public that they can do business without having to bow their head before anybody. They can be free to do business as they want. Of course, they have to comply with the law, they have to pay their taxes. But I think competitiveness building is very important, and for us chartered accountants, even more important, because we are the advisors to all the businesses. When a businessman has any problem, first person he calls is us. And if we are not able to give him proper advice, probably he will go the wrong way. If I don't know something and I still advise, maybe I am doing a very grave injustice to the businessman and also ourselves. So I think GST will also be one of the big supports for ensuring that India does well in the coming years. What are the milestones? Some of it was talked by Goa also. As I said, this started in the Jha committee recommended in 1976, and 1978 they gave a report on how VAT is very important. Almost the same as my first slide. They said this is why VAT is important, we should be internationally competitive, we should not have cascading of taxes. All these points were brought out at that time in 1976, 78. Charaya committee came a little later. Then you had a budget speech which talked about this, which is about 9 years back. Then you had a first paper which talked about GST. As you are saying, these are all old stories. Then nothing is happening after that. Then there was a constitutional amendment bill which was proposed, but it lapsed. It could not be taken up, like the fear I have about this constitutional amendment bill also. Then you had a very important discussion by the standing committee. For those of you who are interested in GST practice, this particular paper has to be read fully. It gives you a very good idea about what are the issues which come up, because the opposition is sitting there to clear the GST bill. So it has discussed in great detail this particular document. Then you had the present bill which is sitting and which has been introduced in this month, and we have to see what will happen. So what does this bill say? Very important to understand what this bill says. So the first objective of this bill is to remove cascading effect so that our goods become competitive internationally, and also tax distortions between states and places disappear. Common national market is there. So for this, what all are required? There are some things required under that. The first thing which is required is the seamless credit. There should be no restriction on credit. Anything which is used for business, you should be able to get credit. Today we have such complicated laws. Credit is available for this, it is not available for that. Credit is not available for structures which are used in capital goods. I can't understand. What is the logic? Without structure, can the capital good stand? Capital good will fall on the floor. But we deny the credit on that. We say construction of factory, you can't get a credit. Why should you not get credit? Without the factory, can you put up a manufacturing place? For say us, you and me, capital goods, in the capital goods, the furniture is not there. We are providing services. What capital goods we have? Maybe a laptop, after that it is our office infrastructure. Why there should be restriction on all this? This is all there in the present law. Hopefully this will all go in the GST law. It should go. I hope it goes. No checkposts. Checkposts are a huge place of corruption. And also they stop vehicles. Genuine vehicles will get stopped. Obviously the corrupt fellows keep on moving past very easily. So checkposts are expected to disappear under the GST regime. There are some challenges there also, because some of the states have been asking for exemption for anything which is a stock transfer or a job work within the state. I hope it is not exceeded to. If it is exceeded to, check post will continue, which will cause some more problem. No forms. Again, as of now, no forms. But if there is going to be a removal within your state, a supply within your state without taxes, obviously form will be there, reconciliations will be there. Transactions will be fast and swift. Additional transaction cost will not be there. All the taxes are there. You will have one transaction cost because you have to maintain your GST properly, you have to maintain your records properly, but under only one law. Not under many multifarious laws. Service also, they have tried to oversimplify what a service means. In the Constitution amendment itself, they say service is anything but goods. Very dangerous. That means agriculture can come under GST. Because it doesn't say that it will not cover that. Anything which is produced, anything where there is value added, unless it is exempted specifically, will be liable. Immovable property transactions today are outside the realm of either VAT or service tax. But they propose, this proposal can even bring in immovable property into the GST. If they were allowing a set off there, stamp duty also had been merged with GST, I have no problem with this. Let stamp duty also be merged with GST, so unless you are taking a residential building, you take credit for even the immovable property. After all, immovable property is used for business. You have a godown in Bangalore, though you have a manufacturing unit in Kolkata. Why you cannot get the credit of that? You bought the property, take the credit of the stamp duty, which will also be a GST. But as of now, it's not there, let me tell you. The next article which Sumantra was talking about, what they are trying to do is enabling both these entities, the center and the state, to tax the transaction which earlier they were not able to tax. Tax on goods by the center. Otherwise, normally what was happening, West Bengal would collect the sales tax for whatever transactions are happening within West Bengal. That is, the VAT of West Bengal would be collected. Even the CST for interstate transaction also used to be collected by West Bengal and retained by West Bengal. So it was a state used to only keep all the taxes which are related to sale. Now the center also can tax it. You will also find in GST the advantage will come that manufacture also will be taxed by the state. Services also will be taxed by the state. The second part I think is very important. Services are growing. You know, service tax was hardly anything a few years back. Now it is the highest in the indirect taxes, other than VAT. VAT is the highest because small amounts collected in many states. Other than that, it is service tax now, 2.4 lakh crores. And it's growing. In my view, service tax in India is not even paid on 60% of the transaction, maybe less. In the south it may be little more. As we come to the north it becomes less and less. Recently I was in an industrial area in Maharashtra. So I was telling them, in your state, service tax must be complied fully. Then that person told me, this was in Pimpri Chinchwad area. He says, here nobody pays service tax on rent. I was shocked. This happened 2 or 3 months back. Nobody is paying service tax on rent. I was really shocked. Pimpri Chinchwad, which is an industrial area. This is what I was told. Recently I was in Bhubaneswar, very near to you. VAT has not been paid on works contract in the last 10 years in Bhubaneswar. Now they have started making demands. I can't understand why it is happening, how it is happening. It's impossible to happen, but it's happening. So there is a lot of place where taxes have not been paid, which can be collected more and more. Now you will have the advantage of states collecting on services also. As long as you are consuming the service, you will get the tax on that, which is going to be a very, very big chunk. People are thinking they are going to lose in GST. I think except for very, very economically weak states, all other states are going to benefit. Whether they are producing states or they are consuming states. Of course, some states will benefit better. For example, Kerala has a lot of consumption. they have a lot of foreign money coming in and they have a lot of consumption, probably they will get the maximum benefit of the GST. That does not mean that Gujarat will have a problem because it's producing everything. When you produce everything, you also require services. You will consume services. And all that will accrue to the state which earlier was not accruing to the state. If I have to produce, for example, there are a lot of, the power projects coming up in Gujarat, right? All solar power projects, huge ones. All hundreds of crores are being invested by individual companies in Gujarat. But for producing that, they require to import something. When they import something, earlier they would have paid only custom duty, and they would have paid additional duty of customs, which would accrue to the center. Now that additional duty of customs, which comes to 12.5% plus 4% special additional duty, all of that will accrue to the states also, and that will come to maybe 1 lakh or 1,25,000 crores. So you are talking of large amounts of additional duties of customs and service tax accruing to the states also under the GST. So I think hardly any state, of course the weaker states there will be some problem. Hopefully they will be supported by the government. Exclusive power for union. This is the problem. States don't believe the center. States think that once we give the power to the center, then we will not be able to do anything. We will be under the big brother. Big brother will decide, we have to accept. This is the fear which states have. Why should I lose autonomy? I don't want to lose the autonomy. And here is where government is trying to see that they bring in more and more strength to the states. Recently you saw a measure in the last budget, 1.78 lakh crores more was the allocation to the states. Earlier it used to be 3.5% or 3.4% of the entire collection of the center, that was increased to 5.5, which is a big move. Maybe they are trying to convince the states that they will not be big brothers, they will be equal brothers. Anyway, we have to see how it happens. GST is on supplies, as you know, in the course of interstate, state and it will be collected by the central government as CGST. Wherever there is an interstate movement of goods, you will have in fact CGST, sale of goods. Wherever there is a transfer, there will be something called IGST, integrated GST you could call it, or interstate GST you could call it. As I was saying, that the supply of goods would come under this, and you will also have the import of goods also suffering the same type of GST. There is an issue which can come. Parliament will formulate principles where it will decide what is interstate and what is not interstate. Here also there can be a problem. How will they define it? Now for this, people who have been practicing in VAT, people who have been practicing in CST, may have some advantage. Because you are already used to the concept of interstate movement, how it applies. When goods are said to be moving interstate, when goods are supposed to be in the course of import, when they are said to be in the course of export. These definitions, I think, from CST will directly come to the GST, where it will be useful. They are also going to define what is a supply. Till now that has not been defined. I am actually perplexed. Why the draft law, which has been ready, I understand, for last 6 months, and the place of supply rules, why it is not placed in public domain? If the law is ready, put it to the public. People like Jayesh and me will start analyzing and we will start educating people. We can do it. But now I am only telling you what I think is the law. If Jayesh speaks, he may say something opposite of what I say, and he will also be right, I will also be right. So there is an issue. There is also one very important aspect which is going to be there in GST, place of provision of service rules. Where where the provision of that supply rules, where the goods are said to be supplied, where the services is said to be supplied. Because GST is going to be a destination based levy. There is going to be a change from origin based levy to a destination based levy. So then we require to know where it is. Here probably service tax will come in useful. And also there is already a place of supply rules of the European Union. As at 1st January 2015 they have amended it and kept it. I expect 95% of that EU rules to be there in our place of supply rules. 5% we will differ because of being a different country, federalism, etc.